In your experience, are there any countries in Europe that are culturally similar to Bharat, India? And is it ever possible for Indians to be friends with Europeans in spite of racism and Hinduphobia? Look, it is of course possible for Indians to be friends with Europeans. There are lots of good people in every nation in the world, in every culture in the world. No matter which part of the geography of the planet you go to, you will find lots of good people there. Right? So, yeah, there is racism in Europe, but not all Europeans are racist. There is Hinduphobia in the entire Western world that originates in certain things, but not everyone is a Hindu phobe, right? It is certainly possible for Indians to be friends with Europeans. Not all Europeans, but many Europeans, I'm sure. Now, is there any nation in Europe that is culturally similar to Bharat? In the past, the whole of Europe had its own native culture and civilization, the old Indo-European culture. So the old European Indo-European culture was the same as the old Indian culture, which to some extent still exists in India, right? Hinduism, Indo-European culture was nothing but that in its all different kinds of local manifestations. The Roman gods are the same as the Indian gods. The Greek gods are the ancestors of the Roman gods. The Romans adopted the Greek gods. The Greek gods are the same as the Indian gods. The Persian gods are the same as the Indian gods. The Indian gods are the oldest of the gods, right? The same pantheon, you will see it in the Nordic pantheon. Thor is Indra. Thor is the thunder god and the hammer god. That's what Indra is. Thor defeats this great sea serpent Jormungandr. What did Indra do? He defeated the great serpent Vritra, who swallowed the oceans of the world, and so on and so forth. So the same culture existed all across Europe. It was destroyed by the Abrahamic culture. It was destroyed, uprooted through horrific barbaric means. This is the truth. Look at the history of Europe, study it. Today's historians won't highlight those matters, but pick up history textbooks. Pick up any good history textbook that deals with the history of Europe in the past 2000 years. They will focus on that briefly, but it's there. We know what happened. The entire indigenous culture of Europe was destroyed. So, below the surface in Europe, we still have elements of the old culture. Let me give you a couple of examples. Yeah. So, the religion is now the Abrahamic religion, as we know, yes. But there is still elements of European culture, old European culture that's still left behind. Here's an example from Lithuania. Do we know where Lithuania is? Look it up on the map. I will show you an example of Lithuanian culture. So traditional Lithuanian houses are adorned with the motif of two horse heads, the Ashwins, the Baltic counterparts of the Rigvedic Ashwins, the divine horse twins. Old Lithuanian Ashwa and Sanskrit Ashwa mean the same thing, horse. Take a look at this traditional Lithuanian house if it will ever load. Here it is. As you can see, there's this motif of twin horses on top of it. Here is a better image of that. So this is one example of old European culture which is very similar to Indian culture, which essentially originates in Indian culture. Here's something else. Let's take a look at the linguistics. Words in English, Sanskrit, and Lithuanian. You is tvam in Sanskrit, which is tu in Lithuanian. Who is kash in Sanskrit, which is kash in Lithuanian. When in English is kada in Sanskrit. How do I say in Sanskrit, when will I be happy? You say kada sukhi bhavamyaham. Kada. So kada is kada in Lithuanian. Sheep, aves, aves. Horse, ashwa, ashwa. Go, iti, iti. God, devas, devas. Agni is ugnis. Danta is dantis. Swa, shwa. Shwana, shwana. Dhumas is smoke. Dhumas in Lithuanian. Mirtis is mirtis. Pada is soul, is padas. Viras, viras, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the Lithuanian language, it sounds just like Sanskrit. The pronunciations will be different today. Nobody in Lithuania will remember the origin of their language, but here we are. You see it right in front of you. So there is so much even today that the European culture has in common with India, especially when you go slightly below the surface, and at the surface you will see the Abrahamic culture, and that is still very strong in various parts of Europe. But if you go a few layers beneath the surface, you will see the true Indo-European culture, which still exists at subsurface levels and all that. Yeah, so there's plenty in common between India and Europe to a certain extent.